Welcome to A Lunch with Biggie, a podcast about small business and creatives sharing their stories and inspiring you. My guest today, since 2007, has a pop culture art blog covering anything from designer toys, comic books, screen prints, t-shirts, vinyl and action figures. And also, I would probably say he's probably the biggest Booster Gold fan that I know. Please welcome the man behind the Blot Says Daniel Blotcky. What's going on, Daniel?
How are you? Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you coming on and having a lunch break with me. What's your usual go-to lunch or sandwich?
Oh man. If I'm not on a diet,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
eating a Philly cheesesteak.
Okay.
Nothing better.
Yeah, and how do you take it? How do you like it? Do you put the whiz? You do provolone with or without?
Uh,
What's
I
your
think
what's your order?
provolone probably, but I eat anything.
Okay.
Put some whiz on it, I'm down.
On a regular day, what's a typical lunch for you?
Probably a salad these days.
Okay.
Any kind. I eat a lot of salads.
Okay.
My wife's trying to keep me in check,
No,
keeping me healthy.
I get it, man. I do. I'm having salad for dinner tonight. We have salad at least once a week for dinner. Some version of it with some protein. We try to make it fun, but for the most part, yes, I totally get it.
But
Um,
if I could do whatever I wanted, I'd just eat a hamburger and french fries every day.
okay. What since I've had burger connoisseurs. What's your like? Do you have and I know you live in Houston, Texas. So well, just to kind of finish up with the burger aspect, do you have like a certain fast food? Are you talking like you're making your own burger? And then what's your burger like? What's your burger order?
Right now I'm on a Whataburger kick.
Oh, I like
If you're in
Whataburger.
Texas, you got to have a
I
Whataburger.
love Whataburger. It's good.
I do. I've been trying to say no bun lately, but add grilled jalapenos, maybe some bacon, cheeseburgers, double patty. But I love all fast food burgers. I like to try them all.
Okay. Fries.
Definitely fries. I'm more of a McDonald's fries guy.
Okay. Okay.
But
It's good
uh,
to know. So, all right. So let's and I'll kind of give an idea to folks. So, like, I've obviously been doing Deli Fresh Drives now for 11 years. You've been doing the Blot Says since 2007. So, way before I came about, but I actually used to follow you, even back in the day. So, I kind of want you to tell people a little bit about what is the Blot Says, and then also what's the origin story of how this came about.
oh man, that's a great one. So the Blot says, there was a big craze early 2000s of like blogs, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. I had an outlet. I'm a writer. I just enjoy art, but I have no artistic ability. That's the biggest thing, right? Like I love creatives. I love graffiti and screen prints and designer toys, but I'm just not that talented. So I was trying to think about like what can I do to help support the industry. And I also, here's a good one. I was kind of unemployed, so I had
Okay,
a lot of free time
got it.
and I didn't have any money. So I was like, instead of buying things by throwing support, I thought, hey, I'll start a website, start blogging, and start writing about the things that I love to help share for the stories of other creatives, and put that in the world and see if I can give them a little extra shine. And really, if you think about it, back then there was Twitter, but like there was Facebook, but it wasn't huge like it is now, where
Yeah.
like a lot of people are just advertising themselves. So they really were relying on word of mouth.
No, I that's kind of one of the things that I enjoyed because I know in the beginning, at least for me, that was one thing. You would like whenever I got a new shirt, you would do different clothing brands, you would do different toys, and kind of go that route. So I'm kind of curious because of the fact that you write so much about these things. Do you have a large collection of these things? Like how and then my other question is, as you started doing it, how do you go about because it's not like you have like an aggregate where it's just kind of like goes and like new things, you see things come up and you automatically just like populates on your website. Like you actually are writing about these new products and toys and things like that and prints and stuff. So where are you getting all of that from?
So I have a very large collect. Well, it depends. It's all relative, right? But
Yeah.
I was huge into like indie t-shirts. That's how you and I got
Yep.
connected. I love Johnny Cupcakes and the Hundreds and a lot of streetwear
Yeah.
and people doing it themselves. So I have a lot of t-shirts. A lot of them are in boxes and bins right now because there's just not enough room for them all.
Yep.
Uh, but I love it because it's a way for you to express yourself walking down the street. You see someone's cool t-shirt. It's a conversation piece. I just think there's so much to that. So I like graphic tees are just I just love them and I would wear them all the time. Uh, my toy collection has grown a lot. You know, like I said, at first I didn't really have money for it, but I buy things here and there, and then over the years it's just kind of grown. Um, if you could see my office right now, it's just surrounded by toys, which is great for a conversation like this. Maybe when we were during COVID and I was working from home for my day job, I had to like turn everything around so you wouldn't just see toys everywhere. But you can see my Star Wars prints behind me if
Yeah.
you're watching the video. But um, I love it, and I think I got a little obsessive in the beginning for sure because I was blogging 5 days a week, multiple posts a day. I was spending a lot of time. Now I've had to take a step back as my life is. I've got kids and I've got a career, but I still try to do it a lot, but it's just more quick, and I got to a point where I can just do it pretty quickly. But for a while, I was spending a lot of time uh, just because it brought me joy, it brought me happiness to spread. Now, how I got that information, it kind of varied. It used to be message boards, and it's so funny, like the way people communicate has changed because message
Yeah.
boards in a lot of ways have kind of died off. So I used to go to message boards. People would post their work or their designs or indie T-shirt they've come up with, and then it kind of moved to Twitter, and then Facebook, and then Instagram. You sign up for newsletters. The problem now is honestly the algorithms kills people, and it also kills a website like mine where like I follow people right on Instagram because I want to see their work,
Yeah.
and that's how I know about a release, and I'll write about it on my website. Um, but I can't even get it doesn't show up on my algorithm either. So I usually see things and like it's sold out or it's been out for months and I had no idea. I know all creatives are dealing with that right
Yeah.
now, where it's like, how do you really connect the people? That was supposed to be the whole purpose of social media, and all these algorithms have really destroyed that. And it's made my life a lot more difficult for sure.
Do some of these creators now still reach out to you, or and things like that, and then like based on that, like, because you've been doing this now for so long, and I know you've won like a lot of awards and accolades for for your site, like, do you also get, like, do some people, like, obviously I know you purchase, but do you sometimes maybe get gifted or sent kind of like a little pack of like, hey, check out our newest toy or our newest creation or something?
I occasionally I will get some freebies to check things out, but I've tried right or wrong not. I'll sell ads. Okay, I used to sell ads. I do affiliate links, but whenever I felt the pressure to write something, like I needed to write
Yeah.
something, it like weighs on me, and I'm not very good at it. It
Yeah.
really puts pressure on me, makes me like, am I telling them how I feel? Am I just giving them a prop? And like, I don't know. It doesn't make me feel comfortable. So generally, I try not to. I try to do it only if like I'm really interested and it's
Yeah.
really more of a curated thing for myself. But it definitely comes up. I mean, people will email me, "Hey, will you check this out?" I love that. I'm always interested in seeing people's art. Some people are like, "Hey, will you write about this?" And I'm always like, let me see it. Let me take a look. Um, but I've definitely created relationships over the years, people I enjoy following, people I enjoy supporting. And so I always am like, please reach out to me, tell me about what's going on, show me what you got coming out. And I'm always happy to help where I can.
So let's talk about that, because I think for, at least for me in my journey, like, that was something that obviously you build that relate. I like to build the relationship, and then it's like some kind of kind of virtual friendship, and then it's not like a, hey, look at me, pub me. But I'm kind of curious, as you, someone who gets those type of things, can you give someone who's trying to get, like, someone who has like a new clothing brand or a new toys or anything like that, that is like, when they go to reach out to you, what are some things that you expect to see or kind of want to kind of have, that kind of makes you, kind of gives you at least a warm fuzzy to basically go, like, yeah, like, oh, I'm gonna go check it out, versus, like the, I don't know, like the template where it's like a copy and paste DM. So I'm kind of curious, like, if you can give people, when people are trying to reach out and maybe slide into a DM or via email to you about their product, what are some things that you kind of would, advice would you give someone?
The one thing that bugs, so I'm looking for photos, number one, like a good photo or an image. It doesn't have to be a photo. It could be the image of your graphic, something to post, right? Because if I'm going to post on my website or
Yeah.
my social medias, it's a visual medium in a lot of ways, and just release information. I mean, I'll get emails where it's, hey, I've got a new T-shirt. Here's an image, and I'm like, when's it coming out? What's your website link? How much is it going to be? Is it limited edition? This is the of a figure. This it's going to be limited to 50. It comes signed and numbered. Like I think there's just like the more info. It doesn't need to be essays, right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes people will send you press releases, and you're like, I'm not just going to copy it. If a couple sentences is great, I don't need like 2 pages of PDFs, right? But I think somewhere in the middle, like it's I've got to release a new couple t-shirts dropping on June 10th. It goes out on this time. This is going to be this price. These more information that I can then incorporate into kind of like a story,
Yeah.
right? Um, so I, more information is better, and you know basic details out there is always better than nothing. And being nice, cordial,
Yeah.
like those types of things. I feel like you can't put a price on that.
No, I totally agree with that. You don't have I took a look to see, but you don't have, and I don't know if it's something because I think are you still using Blogger for your
I
website?
am.
I looked at that and I was like, I'm like, is this real? I'm like, that's how I originally started. But I was like, man, I'm like, how is that? Because I was gonna say, I'm like, do you have like a Google form or something like that that people can submit when they have things, or do they just send you an email and do it that way?
I am so out of date. An email is best,
Yeah.
or message me on social media, is all the blot says. Um, I so I'll tell you the long. I'm not like a web guy, so I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I did it for the longest time, and then at some point I was just like, you know what? Uh, my it was growing. I'll tell you this. This is interesting.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it was growing as readership was growing and revenue was growing and it was going up. And then I had kids. I have twins, and my job got busy, and I just kind of like dropped it. I didn't drop it. I was still blogging, but I wasn't really working on it as a
Business.
influencer brand growth mindset. I was just like, I'm doing it because I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Um, and I was like, I need to redesign my website. I really need to work on it. I need to hire somebody. And my wife was like, you don't really need to spend money on your website that isn't bringing any money in. And I was like, all right, that's fine. So I've just like resigned to the fact that as long as bloggers around, I'm just using that for right now.
Okay. I like that. No, I mean, and I agree. I agree with when it comes to things like that. But at the same time, I will say, like, so you've been doing it now, what, 17 years?
It'll be, yeah, 17 years this November.
So let's talk a little bit about that because obviously I know you, like you said, like you may have slowed down a little. It's a little, maybe some of the perspective of what it was or how it is. But I mean, 17 years of doing something and doing it well and also still putting it because I mean it's like I said you actually are still writing. It's not like you're just grabbing like a clip and be like here's a new GI Joe figure from Hasbro or whatever. Like you're still writing, there's still content involved and you're still spending the time. Can we talk a little bit about that and about like those moments? Like did you have moments, and obviously I know you have a full-time job, but did you have moments where you're like what the hell am I doing, why am I doing this, type of thing?
Yes, for sure. I mean, it's, like I said, I would say the first 10 years I was diehard. I was posting every day, multiple times a day, just because I just got in a rhythm and I would do it at night. I'd watch my kids would go to bed, or we didn't have kids yet, and we'd be watching TV on the couch, and I would just be blogging as we're watching TV, and it would just be like second nature. I wouldn't even think about it. Um, I've been a lot more judicious in my postings now. I mean, not for any reason other than time, honestly. It's just more of like I think that and Instagram's algorithm, and I stopped finding things, and it was a lot more time. You had to spend time to find things to post about, and honestly, like I just didn't have that anymore.
Yeah.
And so, newsletters, I would still get newsletters and companies that would send things out, I'd be able to use, but otherwise, it was just sort of like slowing things down, not having the time at night as my kids were staying up later. Um, but I still love it, so I can't give it up. But it's definitely not number one priority anymore.
Yeah. No, I get that. I get that. And I think that's one of those things where like when you're still passionate about something and you still enjoy it, that's always a big one to try to figure out. Like you do find the time for it. It just may not be on the in the pecking order of life sometimes. It kind of varies.
And I mean, you probably see this a lot in the t-shirt industry as well. Like so many brands that I became friends with over the years have are gone now, right?
Dude.
Like you're still around, but there's so many people that like I used to talk to all the time, and I have no idea where they are anymore. Their social media's shut down. It's
I
same with toys, right? And it's
I laugh when I see that, when you say that, because I have a table, my old kitchen table, that's plastered with like other brand stuff, and I sometimes will stop and look and be like, where are these people? Like, who, what brand is this? I don't even know what this is anymore. So I totally feel that. You were mentioning about toys, because I mean that's a hard one too.
nobody, very few people are getting, I wouldn't even say rich, but like able to quit their day jobs and be true artists. It's a hard, it's grind. Um, and so there's so many artists that I love that like aren't doing it anymore. Maybe they've gotten full-time graphic designer gigs, and so you kind of lose touch and see what they're doing and other focuses. And the same with websites, right? Like websites come and go about t-shirts or toys or art, or they sell off and they get merged into like some bigger conglomerates, so they make it big enough. And so it's sad as you see that industry kind of turn over, but it definitely happens, right? New things come up, other ones go away. Um, it makes me sad sometimes when you think back. I'm like, whatever happened to this? I look at a toy I'll have on my shelf and I'm like, whatever happened to that guy? Like, is he still around? Is he still doing art? And sometimes they come back and it like shocks you and you're like so pumped. You're like, oh, that guy's still doing art. That's amazing. And he's got new paintings, and maybe he started a family. They took off for a few years and then she came back, and it happens. So um, it's just an interesting cycle of life. I went to a Comic Con last year, and I saw on the vendor list a designer T-shirt company from Texas, and I was like, "Oh my God, are they still around?" And I went to their website; it didn't exist, and I went looking for them, and they weren't there either. I don't know how they ended up on the list.
Oh
I don't know
wow.
what it was. I was blown away, but I was like, I was so excited. I was
What
like,
was
maybe
the
they're
brand,
coming
out of
back.
curiosity?
Loyal KNG,
Okay.
and I don't know why they were on the vendor list, but they weren't
I
there, and
do.
I
Yes, Loyal King. Yes, I do
yeah,
remember
yeah.
them. Yeah.
So I was like, "Are they here?" It was in here in Houston, Texas, and I went looking, and I was like, "They weren't here." But I don't know if someone just got their vendor space. Maybe I don't know. It was so bizarre, but I had to go check it out, and they were not there.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. I almost think sometimes at the same time though, I'm like, unless like for I mean obviously t-shirts, almost everyone, there's like so many different t-shirt brands that you probably have seen through the years come and go. But like when it comes to toys, like I feel like there's like an extra layer of difficulty, of cost and manufacturing, and how you're going to kind of produce it and create it. And I think that's kind of the big one. And not to mention the cost that comes from it when you're trying to make them, especially if you're unless you're producing them yourself, like as resin figures. I mean, I know now there's a lot of advancements with 3D printing. Are you noticing that? Like, are you seeing more of that type of stuff coming in? Or what are you kind of seeing? What are you seeing as a trend? Because I do see more figures, like vinyl and resin figures, out there now. But what are you kind of seeing, or how are you seeing it?
It's cyclical, and I always thought, I was a really big Funko fan when they first came out, and
Hmm.
I really thought that was going to be like the gateway drug to open people up to more designer toys. Like that's when I first had them come on the scene. I'm a huge DC Comics fan, so the very first Funko Pop wave was DC. So I had a bunch of those, and like I was like, people were like, "Oh, this is going to change and ruin everything," and I was like, "No, it's going to bring people into toys because it really hadn't been that way, and it really did."
Yeah.
And yet, but I don't know that it translated outside of Funko. Like it didn't really expand outside the scope. It's tough. I mean, making resin figures is awesome, and you can do it DIY, but it's very time consuming and it's hard to make a lot of them. As opposed to like T-shirts or prints where you can go and you can just get them made and print it out. Um, the toy scene kind of ebbs and flows. I mean, sometimes it'll come back big, a new artist will come out on the scene and really excite people. But I really think the downfall of message boards and Facebook groups and just algorithms has really made the toy scene so much more spread out that it really hurts. It makes it a lot harder for a new artist to come on the scene right now
Yeah.
and get a lot of traction, unfortunately. But I'm always looking for the next person. It's great. Like Sideshow got into the designer toy scene, and a couple new companies are coming trying to bring more artist design toys, which is something I really love. Stuff like I started growing up on Kid Robot
Yep.
and some of the toys like that. So it's and they've moved away from the artist side of things a little bit. So that's something I'm always interested in, seeing new companies like Super Plastic coming in and trying to really bring the art side of things to it.
Have you heard of a brand called Toy Snobs?
It sounds familiar, but I can't put my
So
tell it.
they created almost like the I've had the artist on like their on my podcast. He's from South Florida, but what he did was he kind of created a character where it was basically like a turtle Skeletor. So it was like a Ninja Turtle meets Skeletor, and they created like their own figures, like almost like Ninja Turtle figures. And they've also created, like, remember the wrestling, those like wrestling buddies,
Oh
like
yeah,
those the
yeah, yeah.
pillows, they do those as well. So I figure I'm
Oh,
dropping,
that's awesome.
so you can kind of take a look at them, because then that way. But it's weird because of how they do it, which is smart on their part. When they do a lot of like retro vintage type stuff, but when they do it, it's like almost like it's like a drop, and it's like very limited, pre-order, drop, gone. It's like it's not enough for you to be able to get cease and desist. Let's put
Yeah,
it
yeah,
that way.
yeah.
It's kind of how I look at it.
I think retro toys is where, I mean, it's been like this, is where it's at right now. It seems like that's really driving everything, whether it's GI Joe and Transformers
Yes.
or wrestling and He-Man. I mean, every time I go to I mean, there's no Toys R Us anymore, but if I go to a Target or a Walmart, there's always some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or He-Man mashup. That's what I love. I like Hasbro, like they're just like, let's any, or Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. There's always collabing it between the
Yeah.
different brands, and to me that just hits me right in the sweet spot of like nostalgia and toys and fun, and I just love it all.
No, I think I do. It's That's a tough one for me because like I love them, and I'm always, and I could tell because my the algorithm on my phone on Instagram will show me all these toys, because I always like end up clicking and going, ooh, maybe I want that. But then at the same time, I'm like, where am I going to put this? Because obviously, as you can see, I got plenty of shirts to sell. I have some Funko and some toys like on the very top of my shelves. And that's kind of one of the things I've enjoyed, like either ladder, like little Lego guys, and stuff like that. What, out of curiosity, your collection? We'll go with collection, and then we'll talk about DC, because I kind of want to have a question about Booster Gold. But your collection, would you say? Because obviously, I know you have Star Wars prints behind you. What would you say is, like, if someone were to say, okay, what are your top 5 things that you're collecting or your collection is mostly comprised of? What would it be of?
Oh man, I have a lot of collections to the dismay of my wife. I think one thing that I love the most is my Super 7 Rose Vampires.
Okay.
I'm a huge Rose Vampire fan. They're Japanese soft vinyl, Sofubi, but from a US company here, Super 7. They're really famous now for their reaction figures, kind of the retro old school 3 3/4 scale Kenner style figures. But that is one of my favorite figures. Um, I have just kind of a mishmash of figures. I think I have a lot of wrestling figures now. I've kind of gone on a wrestling kick right now, especially old school Hasbro WWF figures, like the old school like 3 inch
Okay,
figures.
not the rubber, not those heavy duty rubber ones.
Not the LJNs. I did have all those as a kid, but
Yeah, so did
I
I.
they're expensive
And
and they are
heavy.
hard. They're heavy and the paint rubs off, and so it's I have stayed away from those. Although there's a company, Matt Cardona and Mike Kinnick and Brian Myers, that just are their own big rubber guys, and they're making new versions of those LJN figures, and they're pretty awesome. They look just like it, and it's really amazing
Are
that
they also large, or are they making them smaller version?
no, they're like the exact same
Wow.
size, same texture. They're doing retro guys and they're doing some modern guys now, and it's those are pretty cool.
Okay.
So I think those two, and then Luke Chu is an artist I really like. I have a lot of Luke Chu figures. He does this like emo sad bear, and he just has tons of different versions of them. I'll have to, if I was on my phone, I could kind of give you a tour of some of
No,
the toys on
you can
display.
actually send us some pics of some of
All
your
right,
collection when we do during for our social during for the social part, so people can look at it. They can see some of your collection. Maybe we'll do that as part of your usually during the course of the week when the episode releases, we'll do some pictures. We can show some of your collection off.
awesome, happy to do it.
What okay, so I'm kind of surprised. You giving me 3 now. So and I know you said DC stuff. So like, do you have like a huge collection of Booster Gold or Turtles or Star Wars?
So
What's
booster, so there is not a ton of Booster Gold merch,
uh-huh.
although I did just get the. So the McFarlane Toys is making DC figures. This is the brand new Booster Gold figure. It just came out. It is the DC Multiverse. It's like a 6-inch figure. This is based on his Futures In look. I have every Booster Gold toy ever released. I have a few customs. I have a custom statue, but there just isn't a ton of Booster Gold merch. I'm actually saving up because if this HBO Max series or just Max series ever comes out, um, I expect a lot more merch. But right now, I do have every figure. It's just not there's not a ton of it.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Okay, so let's talk about the booster gold because I've always been curious about this. What So first off, tell people who Booster Gold is. He's a DC character. Like give like a quick version of who he is, and then I want to know what it is about him that he's like your favorite because like you get a ton of commissions, and I'm also kind of curious. We'll talk about the commission part of it when you're doing like artist stuff, but what is it about him? What's his story, and what is it about him that that has drawn you to Booster Gold all these years?
So Booster Gold's just always been my favorite superhero. He is the greatest hero the world has never heard of. His story is not great. He was a disgraced football player from the future who got in trouble for gambling, and he was working at as a janitor at a superhero museum, and he found a time bubble, and his life was kind of whatever, and so he got in the time bubble, and it brought him back. He got all this equipment from this museum. He got a Legion of Superheroes flight ring and some other different technology to make this suit, and he came back into the past and reinvented himself as a superhero from the future. And so he was originally created by Dan Jurgens in the 1980s. He's famous as the first new superhero that come out of Crisis on Infinite Earths,
Okay.
which is a really huge, monumental DC Comics maxi series from the 80s. And so Jurgens wrote him for a while, and then he became kind of the focal point of the Justice League International, which in the late 80s, early 90s was like the Justice League book. And him and Blue Beetle, there was Keith Giffen and DeMatteis and Kevin McGuire wrote him. And it was kind of like they call it the Bwahaha League because it was kind of comedic. Um, but I just always loved him. I grew up reading him. That was like my era when I was coming into comics, and I read every comic back then. I couldn't get enough. And he was my favorite. And I also think I have a really big soft spot for B, C, and D list heroes. So like he's not an A list guy. He's probably not a B list guy. Most people have never heard of him, which makes me love him even more. And one trivia fact: I named my kids after him. I have twin boys. They're named after Booster Gold. Their middle name anyway.
What do you
And
use? One's the first name, one's his last name.
that's right. Their middle name. Yeah, yeah. Their middle names
Yeah.
are his real name is Michael Carter, and so their middle names are Michael and Carter. And my dog's middle name is Booster to keep the theme going. Um,
That's amazing.
so I'm diehard. Dan Jurgens was actually in Houston a couple years ago, and so I took my boys to meet him. And they're not, they don't.
They have no idea.
They're
How old are your
11. They don't.
boys?
They just turned 11, so
Okay.
they don't
So
care. They're getting
they're
old enough. They
still at that
understand
age.
it.
Are they into that stuff? Are they like, do you guys have that? Is that like a comic book type of hero type stuff or any of that stuff?
When they were younger, yes. Now that they've gotten older, one of them is still more into it. He's into Star Wars and comic books. The other one is really more. I mean, they're both into sports,
Yeah.
but he doesn't care about the other stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but I make them sit through it anyway.
So I actually own a Booster Gold toy, and it's because of you. Um, I did it
You sent
because
me a Lego.
I did send you a Lego because I went to a store and I saw it. And so whenever I see Booster Gold, it's kind of like for me, like when people see sandwich stuff, they send me a picture. I see Booster Gold, I think of you. And so one day I think it was like Five Below had one of those like Booster Gold figures, and I went to go buy them, and my daughter's like, "Who is he?" I'm like, "His name is Booster Gold." She's like, "You know anything about him?" I'm like, "Nope. I just know that my friend like is into it, and I think he's cool looking. I like his colors." And then I got even more excited when I saw that, James Gunn talked about when, they were going to be making a series about it or a show. And so I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. I'm like, he's probably flipping out right now. If it actually does become or does happen, he's probably going to freak out about it.
I was freaking out. I'm a little worried that his characterization might be not on the best side, and then people are like, "You named your kids after this guy," or like as people know him, like now they don't know him, it's like they don't. really think anything of it.
Yeah.
But so we'll see how that goes. But hopefully he becomes huge. He gets in all the movies, and he's like the biggest thing since sliced bread.
That's who you hope for. It's funny because I've been in the lookout because I don't want to spend the money and buy all these figures, but I've been on the lookout because I want one of the things that they did when they would, like they do it for, like, Marvel does it as well as also DC does it, where you build a character, and one of the characters that I want is the Condiment King. But you have to buy like five different figures, and I was just like, I'm not doing that. But I've gone looking for him. I've even gone looking for him, and like for just because I think it's hilarious to have a DC villain named the Condiment King. It's just like too funny. For so I was like, that's one of those.
It is awesome.
um no, man, I love that. I think it's great. It's one of those things where I kind of I love. And the other question I had with that, and that'll be my last booster gold question, is because I know you get a lot of different artists, you do a lot of commissions and a lot of artists to do it, so there's only so much wall space in a house. I'm pretty sure your wife is like my wife, that you have a room and that's where it's confined to and nowhere else. So my question is, where do all these commissions and these art prints? Do you have like a binder, or what do you do to keep them all? And what like and or do you actually have one large wall where it's like literally plastered from top to bottom?
There is not, unfortunately, one piece of Booster Gold artwork in my house, but up in the house. Although that eventually might change. There's two pieces I'm considering getting framed to put up, but I have a I have a bunch of like binders basically that are made for art pages that I have in there, and I have some because I have some original comic book art as well. So like comic book art, comic books. Sometimes, a lot of times, they're digitally now, but traditionally they've been hand drawn. And they'll ship them to the inker. The inker would write them. Back in the day, they would even letter them on the page. So I have a lot of Booster Gold original art. I've got a lot of commissions, and those are all in folders. Um, I have a sketchbook, which makes it kind of hard to get new pieces in it, but I take it to different comic book conventions, and if there's an artist I really like, and what's funny is I always try to get artists that have never drawn him because a lot of the big time artists have just never drawn him because he's not a big
Yeah,
time character. But they always are like, "Oh, I love Booster Gold. I used to read all those series, because they're all about the same age and they've been growing up on them, and it's just nostalgia." And so they always love doing that. And I also have a flat file. When we moved into our new house, it's like one of those big architecture, like really long drawers
yeah.
that I use for all my art prints and different art that I've picked up over the years because I love screen prints. I love like alternative movie posters. There's a few artists I follow, so there's only so much wall space, unfortunately. So
Hmm.
sometimes I'll swap things out, but sometimes I just put them in the drawers and take them out and look at them occasionally.
Yeah. No, I get that. I for a little while, and I still try to do it. I try to get artists to do superheroes eating sandwiches. Is what I try to do. I think it's just a fun thing, and my back wall has some of them. I've had like a Spider-Man, a Wolverine. I think I have like a Batman, Nightcrawler. I have a few that kind of I just think it's fun because I love all that stuff. So I think it's great. Um so I know that you have like sponsorships or kind of like what is it, affiliate links and stuff like that.
Yep.
How did you go about with it when it came to that? Because I saw that you have like some pretty large manufacturers and stuff like that that sponsor kind of the page. Is that something that they approached you approached them? How did all that kind of go about?
It varies. Sometimes you'll get emails, and a lot of times they just set up programs now. It's all kind of on websites, so they'll reach out to you if they've noticed a lot of traffic's coming from your site, or sometimes I'll go to them and I'll see that they have it, so I'll sign up and just sign up for those programs, and then see if anything happens. I mean, they have it everywhere now. I feel like all the big retailers are doing it,
Yeah.
and even some of the smaller companies will try to do it, and you're like, oh, sure, why not? I mean, happy to to try and help it out, and sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. It just varies on how the program is. I mean, that's the thing about running a website. I mean, I always tell people you're not going to get rich off of it, right? Like, you have to enjoy doing it. um, I would probably say I lose money on it because I'm always buying things to highlight and spotlight and show off on it. But the affiliate links help, and sometimes you'll sell, the new companies will pop up and they'll want to advertise, banner ads and stuff on your website. So I'm always talk to them about that, and always happy to help.
Do you, when you share images of products and stuff like of new toys and stuff like that, are they usually supplying those to you, or are you usually using, Like how does all that kind of work? I'll ask just because I've had some instances of issues with that in the past. There was a time when I used to do a section on my website that was called "What's your favorite sandwich?" and I used to ask celebrities on Twitter what their favorite sandwich was, and then I would use that to kind of talk about them, talk about the sandwich, advertise them, and I got into some trouble because I was using like whatever Google Images to show a picture of like a I don't know a celebrity person, and then I got like they're like, well, and it's something like happened like I don't know, it was like maybe it's been a while, but it was like very beginning. So it was like kind of one of those where like 2 years into your business, like maybe like 7 or 8 years ago it happened, and they're like, in 2015, you have this picture. And I was just like, yeah. And I was like, but I'm not selling anything. I'm like, I'm literally just talking about him in a sandwich. And they're like, it doesn't matter. The photographer wants, and it just all went to heck. So I kind of got like frustrated. So I'm kind of curious, like when you go and share some of those things, is that like, do they supply you some of those, or how do you go about it to cover yourself? Because obviously, I enjoy doing the "What's your favorite sandwich?" I think it's like a great thing to show people, and so I'm kind of curious on that. If you have a way to kind of uh, keep me safe if I decide to do it.
It's funny, it's been a long time since I had any issues. I pretty much only stick to either there are a few companies that will send me to their media website. You can download web pictures. Usually it's the same images that they're posting on their social media. And there'll be embargoes sometimes where they'll give you a heads up. And usually you just end up having to wait until they post on their social medias. Usually if they're marketing it, you can use their pictures as well. Um, the times I've had trouble is I've never leaked anything, but if other people leak it, then I'll use their images and show, hey, these people found these leaked images, and they'll come to you and say, how did you get that? And I'm like, well, it's out on the internet already. I didn't,
Yeah,
but I'll take it down if they want us to take it down. I mean, that doesn't bother me. I haven't had any, but it's been a very long time. I think partly because I'm not early on, I was trying to break news, and now I'm not really trying to be the, hey, here's the latest figure coming out that hasn't been announced yet. I just don't have the time to
yeah,
dedicate to that anymore. So for the most part, I just stick to the officially released photos and
yeah.
images.
No, that makes sense. We've talked about it before, but I kind of want to bring it up again. Was there like a time when you obviously? I'm assuming I guess when you first started this, and obviously there's a love and a love for it, but when you first started it, was it the idea was like, hey, I'm going to make this into a business, or was it always kind of like, hey, I enjoy doing this, I just want to be able to spread the word and based on something that I enjoy doing, and I like building that community from it, and or was it always, or did you have at one point an idea of like, oh, I might be able to actually make a living off of this?
I no, I think in the back of my mind, I thought, let's build this up and see what we can do with it. Um, but I did start it when I was unemployed, but then I had a job, and then it just I never went all in because of my education background and the career that I had. That I just felt like didn't really make sense to push it,
Yeah,
but it was definitely something I was interested in. Especially, I was hoping that maybe it was just like a second income or a way to kind of get. And I did for a while. Like I was getting media passes to different conventions, and I would go out. I'd get to go to special media events, and I just thought it was fun. I loved that aspect of things and going and seeing the new releases. Um, but I just couldn't dedicate the time that you really need to do it,
yeah,
and I just didn't see like a business plan. I mean, to me, truthfully, like you got to figure out what is your end game, right? And is it going to work? And for me, I realized after a few years, it probably wasn't going to go where I thought it was, and it was like, all right, let's take it back a few steps. Not that I didn't do it, but that it probably wasn't going to be a second career.
yeah. What would you say the media passes and stuff like that? What would you say is like the favorite thing that's come from you doing this website, doing the Blot Says?
Truthfully, just the relationships and the friendships that I've kind of cultivated with different people, especially when I go to different conventions, like a designer con or a San Diego Comic Con, where I've gotten to meet the people that I've known traditionally online, or talking to you. It's like that's what I loved
Yeah,
was like meeting the different artists and the creatives behind all these releases and figures and under knowing the real people, right? Like there were some artists in Texas, I'd go and see them in Dallas or here in Houston, and like um, just playing a little part in their lives and trying to help them as they are grinding and trying to make something from their their creative juices and make it successful, like that makes me happy seeing guys really, if they get a cool licensing gig where they're designing something for a jersey or a hat or who knows what, right? Like I think that is so awesome, and
Yeah.
I'm just happy for them. And like if I can help give back to the scene, that makes me happy.
Having that you like t-shirts and graphic design and all that stuff, what have you noticed, or what do you think has been like the lasting for like the brands that have survived and are continuing to be successful and growing? Has there is there like what do you think has been their staying power that has allowed them to stay relevant or being successful years through the years?
It is so hard. I mean, I think part of it's got to be just evolving and not getting complacent and willing to continue to like push yourselves and try new things and not be afraid to fail, because you got to find new avenues, right? Like the fans are growing up or moving on or finding something else. You got to keep building that base and kind of growing it. And I think it's so many brands they'll grow and they'll open up stores, and then the stores, it just kind of is cyclical, and you've got to just keep pushing and evolving,
Yeah.
because it's hard out there. It's not easy for anybody,
No.
even the biggest brands, not the indie shirts, but all around the globe. I think it's a hard industry to be in. But I think, and to me, part of it also, I think pop culture evolves, and it's like keeping up to date with what's coming out and what's popular and what's the next big thing, and how do you pay homages or tributes to that and kind of tie in and bring different fan bases in.
No, I think that's very accurate. What do you think has been your success, your recipe for success?
I think just truthfully sticking with it and being consistent. I think that's the hardest thing, right? Like lots of websites come and go. A lot of people. One of the things I'm worst about lately is posting on social media. I just not necessarily posts, but like engagement. I used to be really good at that early on. I think engagement's huge, like especially with all the algorithms. I talk about that a lot, but it's just hard. Like how do you get build up that engagement? Um, and I'll take pictures to post, and then I just never post them because it just gets away from me and I just haven't done it. And I think that's, but from the website itself, like just keeping with it and doing it day after day, month after month, and staying consistent and being, even if you only come once or you come once a month or you think about hit me a bookmark, but check out the website. I just love highlighting things that I love, and hopefully you'll love it too.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. I was like, I spent some time on it. I usually, obviously, like the social aspects of it help, because sometimes you don't go to the website, but like you'll see it on an Instagram or the Twitter, or X, whatever you decide to call it. Which I still find quite a bit of interaction on that. My wife made me laugh because I sent her something that I found, and she's like, she goes, I hate you in social media because I found like I found this like inflatable. I'm a big UCF fan, and they have an inflatable version of our mascot, like outdoor inflatable. And I sent it to her and I said, we need to buy this. And so she was like, she goes, I hate you for finding these things. Either A, because I think either A, she maybe did find it and maybe I don't care. By the time this airs, it'll be Father's Day, probably after Father's Day. So either she did get it, and that's why she said it because it's a Father's Day gift, or just because she knows that I'm gonna end up going to the store and buying it. This like 6 foot version of our inflatable mascot
That's
on it.
awesome.
What advice do you have for someone wanting to start something?
Don't be afraid to fail, and don't think about should I do it. Just do it. You never see it. Like the barrier of entry now and today with the internet and printing and finding companies or people to collab with, like it is so much easier now than it ever has been, right? Like every day gets easier. So if you have an idea, go do it. Make it happen. I think you can. And it's the idea is not to be afraid to fail.
No, I like that. What this is a personal question. Why do you think they don't make enough sandwich themed toys? Like how come they don't have I don't see a lot of characters with sandwiches in their hands.
That's a great
What's the story with that?
You know what? I was actually just looking the other day. There's a guy. His name is. He has got a toy. Science Patrol. He's got a character named Cranston. That's a hamburger. It looks like a little McDonald's hamburger.
Okay.
I was thinking about you the other day. It's cool, but there's not a lot of. I do have one. I've got this Burger Kitty. I'm gonna grab him real quick. Make sure nothing falls out. But it's a little cat hamburger
Do you
cheeseburger
think a
thing.
burger is a sandwich?
I do.
Okay.
I think more than a hot dog. What do you think?
Oh, I think they're all handheld friends. That's why I like the hot dog for sure, definitely not a sandwich. The burger is like a cousin to the sandwich. That's why like the patty melt is like the love child of a burger and a sandwich. Um the carrot I have like 5 vinyl sandwich vinyl figures. I got I'm looking up at them as we speak right now. I think there's like a Kramer Funko that has a sandwich.
Uh-huh.
I got a Scooby Doo and a Shaggy. They both have sandwiches. I have Disney made one that's like my all time favorite ever. Is Anna from dressed like wearing like she's actually it's like I think it was during the time when like they did when it was what is it called, the movie with Vanellope where they had them all
Oh
dress
yeah.
up like regular
Wreck-It
people.
Ralph.
Yeah, and they have Anna wearing a t-shirt and she's wearing shorts and she has like a sandwich. And then I found this one that was like a raccoon with a sandwich in his hand. And that's literally where I'm at. I actually ended up, I don't know if you saw it on social or not, but I'll show you what I got someone made for me. I commissioned them to make it for me. She does, I think she's like Slam 3D, and she made this amazing figure.
Oh, get out. That is I have seen I remember you showing that. That's amazing.
I mean, it is the most amazing. I would give to mass. She made me a small version of this as well, but like made me a big version of Biggie Bread, and then also made me a small version, which is like as soon as I saw a small one, I was like, I would do anything to be able to actually mass produce and sell. Because I would just like
Yeah.
that's like a dream of mine to be
You
able
know,
to.
there's a lot of condiments, but not a lot of sandwiches. There's a lot of condiment toys out there.
Oh, I that you may have to share some with me. We may have to do like we may if you ever decide if you comprise a list, maybe I could do something like that where I could put it on my on I could then put it on my website. I'll be like, hey, look, if you like condiments, check out these cool toys. This is the Blot Says top 5 favorite condiment toys. And then we can kind of share because I do see a lot of plushies and stuff like that. But I the vinyl figures and stuff like that. I think to me are just awesome, and I just kind of that's why I was kind of curious about it. Um, where can people follow, check out your stuff, check out your social, and check you out online?
I am the Blot Says, TheBlotSays, theblotsays.com, and then at the Blot Says on Twitter slash X, Instagram, Facebook. I'm around. Hit me up. Happy share if you got creatives you want to share with me. I'm always looking for new things to write about, and always trying to find the next big art piece that I'm gonna drool over.
Yeah, I will say I may DM you and send you some because I have some folks that are like guests that I've had that either have done are into doing the toys and stuff like that. Do some really cool stuff. Like Coffin Couture is one of them. He does these amazing like ghosts and stuff like that, and he like 3D prints. But he's you will appreciate him because he's like a he's like a kid at heart. So he'll actually retrofit and do things like buy old toys. Like he has like a scooter that he's like making it and turning it into like Pee-wee's bicycle, but it's a scooter. And he's got like he just did and he does a lot of like the cons and stuff like that. So I will send you his info so you can check it out because he has some cool he's cool, he's making some of his own like original toys and stuff like that, and I think it's fun stuff. but um
Awesome.
but yeah, man, it's been great. I've been all these years. I've needed an excuse for us to be able to actually meet each other and get a chance to talk. Usually, we're like we'll do a quick DM or message each other. But I'm glad we got a chance. I really appreciate you taking the time to be on the show today with me and tell your story and kind of catch up with me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm sorry it took this long to get together, but hopefully we can do it again soon.
Yeah, man, for sure. Well, that's our show for today. Thank you so much to Daniel Blotky of the Blot Says for being on. Definitely make sure to check him out online. You'll see it all in the show notes. If you enjoyed the show, definitely make sure to subscribe, leave a ratings, tell your friends. If you want to support my brand, check out Deli Fresh Threads. Do some shopping there. Obviously, sandwich selfies always encouraged. Thank you. Until next time, keep eating sandwiches and follow your passion. Thanks, everyone.